All right, in this video tutorial, this is geared towards my Capstone class, and we're kind of focusing on early storyboards. So early storyboards meaning these are kind of like your first ideas coming out, and the goal is to physically print these so that we can put them on the wall and rearrange, kind of work organically as a group rather than being kind of stuck in the computer. So here's a tutorial on how to kind of arrange your storyboards and also print them. And so first off, one thing you might notice is I have several artboards open here. So if I'm working in Photoshop, I like to work with artboards when storyboarding. So you can see right here, it makes it so that I can pan around, right, and look at multiple frames at the same time, and I'm not kind of clumsily toggling through layers here to kind of see shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, shot 4, right? So the way to do this kind of artboard is I first created a new document, so I went File, New, and then I chose the HDTV 1920 by 1080 at 72 ppi resolution. I think it's important to kind of stick with a low resolution when doing this, otherwise your document's just going to get massive, right? Something else that you should probably do is try to be economical with the amount of layers that you use when storyboarding this way, because with these multiple artboards, right, we have multiple 1920 by 1080 documents, and so if you're adding layers upon layers, your file might start to get a little bit bloated. Something else that I'll do here is when I storyboard this way, I might have, one Photoshop document for, Act 1 or Scene 1, right? And then create a new Photoshop document for Act 2 or Scene 2, right? And kind of push things along that way as well, just to kind of keep the file size manageable. All right, so how do you get these artboards, right? So I'm going to go over three things. I'm going to go over how to create artboards. I'm going to talk about what this is right here, and then I'm going to talk about how to print at the UNCG lab. So step one, creating artboards. So the first thing that I did is I'll just kind of create a new document so we can kind of see this from scratch. So File, New, 1920 by 1080. I'm going to stick to 72 dpi and create. All right, and so first thing that I need to do is I have this artboard, and I'm going to create a new layer and just kind of draw something here. And I need to make this my first artboard, right? Here, I'll make them this, here we go. And so the first thing I need to do is create an artboard out of this. So I'm going to click on this, hold shift, click on that, right click, and then I'm going to go new artboard. And it's going to ask me what I want to call it, right? You can keep it as artboard 1, I can just call it 1, right? It's up to you. And it creates like a grouping right there. And so now we're ready to start creating more artboards. If you don't do this step, then it's not going to work for you the rest of the way. So be sure to, again, create the layers you need, hold shift, select them, right click, and then it's a new artboard right there. That creates this artboard or this kind of grouping. So step 2 to create more artboards this way is I go up to the move tool, and I have to click and hold it down, and you can see if I click and hold it down, there's tools hidden underneath of it, and you can see there's tools hidden underneath a bunch of these. But we have the artboard tool right here. And so with the artboard tool, you can see things change a little bit. And so I have the option, I can click and drag out here to create a new artboard that way if I want to create like a custom size. I can, if I want to, I can hold Option or Alt if you're on a PC and hover it over the corner right here. And if I clicked right here and dragged it, it would create a duplicate artboard. So that's another way to create a second artboard. Here, I'll just show that real quick. So again, I'm using the artboard tool. I'm holding Option on a Mac, and let's see if I can get it to go. And then I just hold Shift if I want to snap it, or I can just click and drag it like that. When you're moving artboards around, just be sure you're on the artboard tool, and you have to click on the very corner of it right here, and you can hold Shift to snap it into position as well. So that's one way to create it, but let me show you the way that's best for what we're doing today, which is storyboarding. Because I want the panel to be completely identical, and I want it just to be arranged neatly. So you can see these plus signs, that's the easiest way to do it right here. So I have artboard 1, and I'll just put that in, artboard 1. And then to duplicate this, all I need to do is, again, go up to the move tool, go to the artboard tool, and as long as your artboard is selected, you can see those plus signs go away when I select a layer, so be sure that your artboard is selected to get these plus buttons. And then I can press plus right there. You can see it creates the second artboard. I can create a new artboard right here, right there, really quickly. And you can see each time I create a new artboard, it creates a new grouping. And if I want to draw on these artboards, last thing you need to do is, and you can see since I renamed that one, you can see the order gets a little funky, but you can just kind of go through and rename these. And, oops. And I can click on these and kind of drag them and rearrange them that way so that the order lines up the way that you want. You can see that these new artboards that I created are empty, so I need to create a new drawing layer within each of these so that I have something to draw on. And so I'm in artboard 2, and I'll just write the number 2, artboard 3, right, so on and so forth, right? So that's how you create artboards. So that's the first step. So the second step I want to show you is if you look on the course, the Canvas website, I have 2 compositional templates for you all to use. And so this is under Artboard 3. So I have these at kind of low opacity. I'll bring their opacity up. So these are compositional tools to help you out when trying to find your focal point. You don't have to use these, but these can be useful, right? So refer back to my lesson on composition. So remember in that lesson I talk about the rule of thirds right here, and putting your focal points on these corners right here can be really helpful. And then I have the golden ratio right here, so focal point right there, focal point right there. Remember with the golden ratio that it works in this arrangement, but you can also flip it horizontally. So if you want to flip this horizontally, you can press Control-T, or go to Edit, Free Transform to move it, and then you should get these buttons down here, and then if I just click that, I'll flip it vertically, right? And so these are just compositional tools that are optional to use. You can download them. I have them as PNG files, so they're transparent. So if I created a layer underneath these and drew under it, let me change my pen color. You can see that it goes underneath of it right there. So these are transparent layers, and I don't know, might be useful for you when you're storyboarding, just to kind of help you find your compositions and your focal points. All right, so that's step 2. All right, so let's talk about step 3. So this is exporting it and getting it ready to print. So let's say that this is my storyboard, right? And I want to physically print this out at the UNCG lab. And so there's a couple steps that I'm not going to be able to show you on this computer here. But if you're working on the computers at the school, I'll kind of walk you through how to do it here. So we're going to want black and white prints. We don't need color for these. We don't want to spend a lot of money on these prints, right? So we're not going to use nice paper. We're just going to use the inexpensive printer in the 130 lab. And so at the time of me recording this, let me just pull this up. The printing lab looks like this. And you're going to be looking for, this is room 130 on floor 1. And you're going to want to use this computer and this printer right here. So you just walk in and it's right to your right. So what you're going to do is you're going to, send to the station, and I'll kind of walk you through that step in just a minute. So I have my boards right here. You know, hopefully I would have more than this. I'm going to export these. And so remember, when you have artboards, there's 2 ways to save. I can save my overall Photoshop document by going File, Save As, and saving it as a PSD file, right? And so that way I can open this document up later, the next day, have all my layers available to me, right? So the saving as a PSD is a way to kind of save it for yourself, so you can reopen it again, or share it with somebody else so that they can kind of draw on it. If your file starts to get too big, you can also look at the larger format options right there. So PSB, B as in baseball, is another kind of file format that you can use that's not a PSD that can kind of help accommodate this if this starts to get too big. So right, that's one way to save. For the exporting to the black and white printer, what you're going to want to do is you're going to export these artboards individually as JPEGs or PNGs. So I'm going to just kind of collapse all my artboard layers, hold Shift and select all of them like that, right click, and then I am looking for export as right here. So again, if all my artboard layers are kind of open like this, I'm going to collapse them so that I can select just the artboards really easily. So hold Shift and select that, right click, and then export as. And I prefer export as rather than export as PNG, even if I'm using PNGs, honestly. And so this window will come up. and it'll give me the option to either select all of my artboards, or if I don't want to export that one, right, because there's nothing drawn on it, I will leave that blank. And we have the option for, you're probably not going to want to mess with any of this stuff, it's probably fine over here. For the format, you could do PNG or JPEG, whichever one you like. If you do JPEG, maybe boost that up a little bit in terms of the quality. And we can make sure to export, and then I can set my location. In this case, just for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to export to my desktop and do that. And it should have exported. So we have Artboard 1, Artboard 2 right there. All right, so in terms of how to print this, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it, right? I think one thing that I might recommend that you do is perhaps you can open up a new Photoshop document. The paper that's going to print out of that printer that I showed down here is going to be 8.5 by 11, right? So maybe what we can do is go into Photoshop, make a file new, go to print, 8.5 by 11 right here. So I went Photoshop, file new. We have these presets up here, so I went to print and then 8.5 by 11, and I can just create that. And so now I have a nice preview of what that sheet of paper is going to look like. And so I can just find my PNG files over here, just drag it right onto the canvas, and then press this check mark right here. They're both going to come in. And from here, I can use the free transform tool to rearrange them on my page, right? So if I want these to come out really big, then I can just hold shift and select both of them. And I think it's important to select both of them at the same time so that you can scale them to be the same size. And so I'll press Control T, or again, edit free transform right here. And on my version of Photoshop right now, if I don't hold shift, it'll scale disproportionately. So I want to hold shift. You might be on another version of Photoshop that's reversed. And you just get this to the scale that you want. Be sure to leave some room on the outer edges. So don't put your, don't leave your storyboards like right on the edge like this, because there's going to be a little bit of bleed in the print, and you want to leave some room. So give yourself like a little bit of space like that, right? In this case, I'm only printing 2, so I'm going to give myself a ton of space on here. And I'm just going to, oops, Control T again, hold shift so that it snaps down like that. And I got my boards, right? This is an 8.5 by 11. When it comes out and prints, it'll, be this proportionate size. You can see I forgot to take off my proportional grids over there, but that's okay. And so now, if you're ready to print, this is the steps that you'll do. So be sure to be printing on one of the school computers. So you can print from the animation labs. You can also print from the 130 print lab. Right, so whichever one that you kind of prefer to do. And all you're going to do is you have your document here, and you're going to go File, and then Print. And I'm not going to have this option, right, but you will, or you should be able to, is File, Print, and then it's going to go File, Print, and you're going to have the option under printers to look for the black and white printer in the 130 lab. So look for that, and then basically just press print and send it over. And they've got it set up pretty intelligently where it's going to know it's coming from you and all that stuff. So it's going to be really straightforward, hopefully. So again, you just go File and then Print. This window will come up. You can see, remember I was talking about bleed before, it's showing me a preview of the bleed, right? So try not to put your images within that striped area. And under the printer, you're just going to look for that black and white printer from the 130 lab. All right, and then you'll just press print and it'll kind of send over there. All right, so that's the first step. And then the next thing you'll do is you'll go to the lab, find the station right here, and you can see that this computer, there's this little scan code right there. And so you'll just take your Spartan ID, scan it, and then your print should show up in this window pretty much right away. And from there you can choose to print it or not. And it'll charge you, I forget what the price is, it might change, right? But, at the time of me recording this, I think it's 3 cents a print, it might be 5 cents, right? So it's not going to be very expensive, and you'll get your physical prints, and hopefully that'll be the end of it. So hopefully this tutorial helps, and if you have questions, you can just email me as these come up.